Welcome to another episode of What is Hashimoto's with Dr. Martin Rutherford. To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com. And now, here's Dr. Rutherford.
Hey, Dr. Rutherford here today, and today we're going to talk about exercise. Now, full disclosure, I'm sure I've talked about this at some point in time because it's such a significant part of exercise relative to Hashimoto's, relative to immunological aspects of disease in general. So in other words, I get a lot of people that come in here with autoimmunities of all kinds. And this ongoing series that we're doing right now is all about Hashimoto's, and we usually pick these topics according to what people are asking for, but also according to what I'm seeing. And I see a lot of trends. I see a lot of new patients. I interview a lot of people. I've seen a lot of new patients. And the latest trend I'm seeing is people taking more responsibility for themselves, at least the ones that are calling here. And they're trying the different diets. They're off the gluten. They're taking the seleniums, and they're taking the Methanone, and they're taking the zinc, and they're taking the magnesiums and everything. And they've probably gotten some improvement, but obviously they're not getting what they want out of it. So they call someone like me, and so one of the big things I'm seeing lately is people going, okay, I got to exercise. Exercise is good, and I probably have done something like this online already, and if I did, what I said was, yeah, but too much exercise is not good. So I wanted to go over a little study that was just done, and it was a study out of Europe, and it was just last year, and the study was on the immunological aspects of exercise in chronic disease. And interestingly enough, they specifically talked about Hashimoto's thyroiditis in this study. Understand, all you Hashimoto's sufferers, you now officially have the number one autoimmune condition in the entire world. I'm talking to people from Australia, talking to people from the United Arab Emirates, I'm talking to people all over. And it's there. And their doctors don't know what to do with it either. So there's a lot of different things relative to fixing or putting these problems in the remission, keeping in the remission. And really what I do is lifestyle, right? It's lifestyle, it's nutrients, nutraceuticals, and it's diet. But within the framework of that, there's about 40 different things you need to look at. Exercise is a big one, because here's the deal. What they found is that a certain level of exercise is really, really excellent for autoimmune disease in general. We may have always kind of intuitively known it's good for your immune system and balancing out your immune system in general, but this study took a number of people, and I think it was like 180 people, and measured outcomes, measured lifestyle outcomes, but also measured specific chemistry relative to immune function, and some of this particular chemistry was relative to Hashimoto's. Now, what they found, some of it's not going to surprise you. First of all, they found that it keeps your immune system and your metabolic system in balance when you do enough exercise, but not too much exercise. We'll get into the too much later. But if you do enough and you don't exceed your metabolic capacity, which I'll tell you what that means in a minute, then it shows that it improves physiological outcomes. In other words, you're able to function better during the day. You're able to think better. You're able to move better. You're able to do those types of things. More importantly, it improves psychological outcomes. They did psychological testing on these participants relative to anxiety, relative to depression, relative to panic attacks, and things of that nature. And they found that these outcome measures improved by 25, 35, 45%. And I must tell you, they were not, they were not, the lifestyle changes were relative to just exercise, and a person doing maybe 20 or 30 minutes worth of walking a day, because that was pretty much what they asked people to do. So they also, now I'm not sure how they came to this conclusion, and I read the whole article, and it's like several pages long, but they did come to the conclusion that it's cancer preventative, and that if you have cancer, that it improves the recurrence rates of cancer by you doing exercises. Well, it makes sense if they're saying that all of these markers that are inflammatory markers, immune exacerbating markers in the blood are all improving, then it would make sense that it could give you a better shot of not getting cancer, even if you have genetically, proven cancer lines in your family. Obviously, you probably have to do a little bit more than exercise, but really they isolated that out, and the only factor that they evaluated in this study was exercise. Okay, and then the biggest thing that caught my eye that made me want to do this was it just decreased immune inflammation. It decreased inflammatory markers across the board. Some of you may be familiar with markers of called C-reactive protein. So that's a big marker today, especially in the cardiac world. It's a marker that means you're getting an inflammatory response, and if you're getting an inflammatory response of such a severity, then it increases your risk for getting heart disease by like a ton, like 40-50% or something like that. And the way it works is there's this inflammation takes place. The inflammation starts damaging the inside arteries of your heart, and in this particular study, they studied the heart, but it can also be stroke, and that it can make you more susceptible to. And that showed that a moderate amount of exercise decreased your ability to increase your ability to decrease your C-reactive protein, which goes to heart disease, but it also goes to not flaring up autoimmunity, particularly we're talking about Hashimoto's right now, but specific to Hashimoto's, TNF alpha went down, IL-6 went down, and about 6 other markers that are all inflammatory markers. Okay, when you get those antibody tests back that tell you that you have Hashimoto's, your thyroid peroxidase antibodies, particularly, and your antithyroglobulin antibodies. They're antibodies. They're not destroying your thyroid. They're telling these guys to destroy your thyroid, the TNF alphas, the IL-6s, and those types of things. These are white blood cells that are good until they're out of control. And when they get out of control, they cause inflammation. So proper exercise dampens them. I go back to, and the reason I'm doing this one is because suddenly I'm treating people who are triathletes. I'm treating people who are cross country, marathon runners. I'm just treating people that are going to the gym and doing high intensity exercises, and all of those, well, not all of those are extreme. Okay, particularly like the triathletes and the bicyclists who bicycle hundreds of miles. And I mean, I'm at the foot of the Sierras here, so a lot of people train here, Olympians train here, and I'm getting a lot of these folks who have Hashimoto's and who have other neuroinflammatory diseases and autoimmune diseases. And it's kind of hard to say, you know what, that's a little too much. And when you interview that person, they all say the same thing. They say, I want you to help me to be able to better do this without crashing. Well, I'm not sure it's going to happen in those cases, because what the study showed was that if you over-exercise, you crash, and all these things flare up. When they flare up, it's heart palpitations, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, it's joint pain, but it's fatigue. Oh my God, it's fatigue. They're down for days, and then, and so it's that mindset of more is better that I'm trying to break here. Now, so exercise is good up to a certain point, and you have to find out what that point of duration and intensity is. And the way you find out is you pick an exercise, let's say it's walking, and let's say you actually have time on your hands enough to walk for, let's say, an hour, okay? Pick an exercise and walk for an hour. You don't crash. If you don't go home, if you're not like, oh my God, I can't do anything else for 2 or 3 days, then you have not exceeded your capacity and you can do an hour. If you're so inclined to do more until you get that reaction, and then you're going to know that that's too much exercise and you have to back down, all right? I mean, in general, 20, 30 minutes of exercise is good enough for my patients. But again, I'm running into a lot of people who are now, they're in the gym, they're doing circuit training, they're doing all kinds of things, and it's flaring them up. Then when I do the lifestyle aspect of my recommendations to them, many are relieved that they don't have to go out and kill themselves. And unfortunately, the ones who are not relieved are really not relieved. They're just kind of like, no, that's like what makes me happy, except for the 3 days that they're laying in bed with all these symptoms and fatigue and can't do anything. So that's the immunological aspects of exercise, and basically in chronic disease and chronic inflammatory diseases. But it's very specific to Hashimoto's. It's a topic I cover with like all of my Hashimoto's patients, and they get it. Especially once they start to implement it, they start to get how much that is one piece of their puzzle for sure. So that is exercise and Hashimoto's, and that's kind of like the updated, official, actually research done type of a data that I think a lot of the people out there that are watching, a lot of you out there watching, would like to have. All right.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Hashimoto's? To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com.